Last but not least, the greatest teams of the decade, starting with number 5, the University of Houston, or Phi Slamma Jamma. The dunking fraternity with acrobatic slams and atomic jams. The Cougars were coached by Guy Lewis, who was so enamored with the dunk, he made it part of the team's statistics. Houston lost only 3 games that season, losing early to Syracuse on the road, 92-87, and to Virginia at Tokyo, 72-63. Then in the national semifinals held in Albuquerque, Houston eliminated Louisville, 94-81. Houston was favored in the finals with a #1 ranking. Surprisingly, Houston made only 1 dunk in that final game, which was decided by a dunk by NC State. With the score tied, Derek Whittenburg of North Carolina State took a 35-foot desperation shot. And when the ball fell short, Lorenzo Charles grabbed it and slammed it through with 1 second left. North Carolina State won, 54-52. The #4 spot, 1985, Georgetown, winner of the 1984 NCAA championship. The Hoyas were ranked #1 by regular season end and had a record of 30-2, losing to St. John's by 1 point and Syracuse by 2 points. Coach John Thompson's cast was basically the same as it had been the previous season. Patrick Ewing, David Wingate, Michael Jackson, and Reggie Williams, with Bill Martin replacing Michael Graham in the lineup. In the NCAA semifinals, Georgetown this time would beat Lou Carnesecca's St. John's team, the final by 18 points. Setting up a Big East final in the NCAA championship game, Georgetown versus Villanova. The Hoyas were heavily favored to win. The critics said Villanova would have to play a perfect game to pull the upset. And to everyone's astonishment, they did. The Wildcats shot 78.6% from the floor, 90% in the second half, and with that effort, barely beat Georgetown for 1985's NCAA crown, 66-64. Our #3 team is the 1984 North Carolina Tar Heels. Coach Dean Smith had one of his best teams before falling victim to the injury bug. At 28-3, the Heels became only the 6th team in ACC history to go through the conference round robin undefeated at 14-0. Michael Jordan was a consensus National Player of the Year, and Sam Perkins was All-ACC and first-team All-American for the 3rd straight season. Mike and Sam would both star that summer on the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. But injuries were the club's biggest obstacle. Point guard Kenny Smith had his wrist broken in the LSU game. The Tar Heels to that point were undefeated, and he would never fully recover. In the #2 spot, Georgetown's 1984 edition. The Hoyas had Michael Graham, Michael Jackson, Patrick Ewing, David Wingate, Fred Brown, and Reggie Williams off the bench. Still motivated from the 1982 loss to North Carolina in the championship game, John Thompson had his team headed for the final. On their way, they would stop a talented Kentucky team with their Twin Towers. Georgetown held the Wildcats to just 9.1% second-half shooting as they scored a mere 11 points in the last 20 minutes of action. Georgetown would meet Houston in the finals, winning the 1984 championship 84-75. As expected, North Carolina dominated the regular season. The final wire service polls ranked North Carolina first at 27-2. On March 27th in New Orleans, North Carolina beat Houston 68-63, and Georgetown beat Louisville 50-46, giving North Carolina its 3rd final under Dean Smith. And the Tar Heels were favored to win. On March 29th, North Carolina, leading by a point with 5:50 remaining, went into its 4-corner offense. North Carolina won the final eventually 63-62 on a jump shot by freshman Michael Jordan with 15 seconds left. James Worthy, a junior forward, led the Tar Heels with 28 points and was voted the most valuable player. Selected to All-American teams were Worthy and Eric Sleepy Floyd of Georgetown. Well, that's our look back at the decade of the 80s in college basketball. Thanks for watching.